First of all, to discuss the differences between them. So, internet is not something that you can basically touch or you can basically feel like it's not a something like sort of a hardware. However, it relies on your physical infrastructure. Relies on physical infrastructure means it relies on the physical devices like maybe routers, hardwares, internet wires. Uh, to enable a network connection and individual devices to connect to their network. So this is an internet. But when it comes to a world wide web, which is www, it does not owns the whole of the internet. It is basically only a small part of internet that the user can give access using web browser and software. So the World Wide Web consists of massive collection of web pages. So it's only a small part, a small portion of internet, and it is based upon your hypertext transfer protocol. Therefore, World Wide Web is basically a way to access information. So that the internet and World Wide Web. So here is a short summary for both of them. Like what's the difference between them? Like you use World Wide Web whenever you have to wants to open a website, but you use internet to connect the area. So can you please go on to these points and get back to me if you have any problem. Your first concept should be clear. The concept is that what is the difference between a World Wide Web and internet? Yes, sir. Okay, so I hope that you don't have any difficulties here. So, with the help of an internet, users can send and receive emails, right? They allow you to send online messages. You can make use of the transmission protocol. However, a World Wide Web is basically when you have a collection of websites and informations. They use the HTML. What is HTML? HTML is basically an example of a protocol. So you also have the URL, Uniform Resource Locator, to like specify the location. So what is a URL? URL is basically a software that allow the users to access and display web page on their device screen. So URL is basically the address of your website. So it interprets the HTML that is sent from the website and it produces the results. URL are basically consist of these areas. You have a protocol, you have a website address, you have a path and a file name. So first of all, if it's a protocol, so a protocol begins with like HTTP or HTTPS. So this is a protocol. And your website address, it always contains these four areas. First of all, you have the host name, that is www. Then you have the domain name that is considered as your website name. So your website name is going to be like, for example, facebook.com. So www is the domain name, Facebook is the website name, and .com is your domain type. And sometimes you also have the country code as well, like .uk, .sa, like this. So this is basically the path of the web page, but it's limited. So this is basically a URL. A URL is a website address that allows the user to access and display web pages on their device screens. It interprets HTML languages. So again, with the URLs, I have two different terminologies, or maybe you can call the security protocols. One is known as an HTTP, or then and then the one is known as an HTTPS. So the difference between both of them is that only the HTTPS, like Hypertext Transfer Protocol, secured HTTPS is basically a set of rules that must be followed or obeyed when you are transferring the files across the internet. So basically, if you have an HTTPS, so S basically represents a secured site with a padlock sign in the status bar, as you have seen some of the websites like this. Let me show you, like if I'm opening the Google here, you can see that this extension here, this starts with an HTTPS. So with this HTTPS provides you with a padlock sign, which is right here. So this basically says that your connection is secure because you have an HTTPS. HTTPS is a hypertext transfer protocol. However, if you do not have an S1, this means that the protocol is not secured. Just after this, I have web browsers. So can you list me down some advantages of a web browser? Can you give me some advantages of a web browser?
Easy to access.
Okay, easy to access and anything else?
Security.
Hmm. So in your exam, you might be asked that what is a web browser or why we use that. So you can definitely respond to that. That web browsers are the softwares that allow you to access websites on your device. And some of the points for a web browser are like they have a home page. You have a home page and they gives you the option to store your favorite site. They keep a history of your websites being viewed, and they also have the ability to go forward and backward. Web pages can be opened at the same time. You can make use of the history, use of hyperlinks. So like this. Then after that, I have this title, which is retrieval and location of a web page. So for this part, this is your basically retriever and location of a web page. I mean, they're asking you that whenever you open a website, what happens or how the website is opened. So this is what we are going to see right here.
Happens when you type a URL in the browser and press enter. For example, if you type a path in the browser like www.cloud.com. A browser is a local program like Chrome or Firefox that is running on your local computer. When you click on the browser icon, the operating system loads the program like Chrome or Firefox. It opens a window which is locally hosted on your desktop. After you enter the website name in the URL and when you hit enter after entering the URL, for example, www.cloud.com in the browser, it has to translate the URL to the IP address. Servers communicate with IP address and not a domain name. That is why the domain name needs to be translated. A DNS or domain name system server is used to translate the IP to hostname. For example, www.cloud.com is translated to 10.9.8.7 by the DNS server. The browser searches for the IP address translation in the DNS cache of the browser. If it does not find it in the browser cache, then it looks up the operating system and checks the host's file of the local computer, and then the operating system cache. If it does not find it in the operating system cache, then it looks up at the ISP or Internet Service Provider. When it is able to translate the DNS name to DNS IP, your browser knows that it has to send packets to the domain name www.cloud.com. The URL in http cloud.com/homepage can be split into three parts, which is the protocol or schema, which is the HTTP protocol, a domain name, which is cloud.com, and a path, which is homepage. In order to establish a connection between the browser and the remote server, first it has to establish a connection with a three-way handshake. TCP's three-way handshaking technique is often referred to as SYN-ACK because there are three messages transmitted by TCP to negotiate and start a TCP session between two computers. SYN is for synchronized. SYN-ACK for synchronized acknowledged. ACK for acknowledged. Once the TCP session has been established, then both sides now know that the other side exists and are trying to communicate with each other. The HTTP command is sent over the connection that is established with the TCP protocol. When you type HTTPS cloud.com into your browser, the first thing that happens is a domain name server, DNS, matches https://cloud.com to an IP address. Then, the browser sends an HTTP request to the server, and the server sends back an HTTP response. The server is going to take the request that came in, looks up the domain name it was requested for and the resource that was requested, and the program on the remote website is going to evaluate. Example like Apache, Microsoft Meetings, PHP. The browser begins rendering the HTML on the page while also requesting any additional resources.
So I will share this video link right here. Same is the case here as well. That first of all, wherever this is your computer, right? Whenever you enter the URL of a website, it first goes to your DNS server one. What is DNS server? A DNS server is basically like a phone book that records all IP addresses and all website resources, that if you're entering a website, on which IP address you will be redirected. So this DNS server then look for the resources right here. If it is available, it sends back, and if it does not, then it sends information to the second DNS server to ask him that do you have the appropriate resources for this website? And if yes, then this server sends back the information to server one, and then server one back to your computer. And from your computer, then the connection is established between you and the computer server. So retrieval and location of web pages is basically like when you enter the name of a website, how it is retrieved, or maybe how it displays the contents of the website. So all websites are written in HTML and hosted on a web server. And if they are hosted on a web server, that means they have their own IP address. So this diagram can be important in terms of your exam. So you can create this diagram, and other than that, this is the procedure right here as I explained you. So can you please go through that and get back to me if you have any problems?
Sir,
Others, do you know that whenever now you type a website, how it accesses your resources?
सर
Hmm.
सर डीएनएस में सिर्फ दूसरे वेबसाइट्स की आईपी एड्रेस स्टोर होती हैं।
डीएनएस एक फोन बुक की तरह होती है, और फोन बुक में ये होता है कि किसका क्या नाम है और उसका क्या नंबर है। डीएनएस का काम सिर्फ ये होता है कि जैसे ही हम किसी भी वेबसाइट का नाम एंटर करते हैं, तो ये देखता है यार ये वेबसाइट जो है वो किस आईपी एड्रेस पर मौजूद है। और वो उस आईपी एड्रेस को हमें डायल करके देता है ताकि वो वेबसाइट हमारी ओपन हो जाए। अगर अब वो डीएनएस सर्वर 1 में नहीं मिलता तो वो डीएनएस सर्वर 2 में भेजता है, फिर 2 से मिल जाता है तो फिर जो है वो दोबारा से रिसोर्सेज को भेजता है और फिर ऐसे वेबसाइट ओपन होती है, क्योंकि हर वेबसाइट जो है वो सर्वर पे इंस्टॉल होती है तो उसका आईपी एड्रेस की लोकेशन हमें चाहिए होती है।
ठीक है सर।
Okay, so just after this part, I have cookies. So, do you have any idea what are cookies? Cookies क्या होती हैं? Or if you remember that whenever we just open up any website or something, and when you log in, it asks you to save your password. So where is your password usually saved? So it is stored in the cookie. So what is the purpose of the cookie? The cookies are basically small files that are stored on a user's computer. Like they are sent by a web browser and they contain your data. Like every time you visit a website, it checks that if you have previously visited that or not. So if you have previously visited the website, it loads it up much faster. Cookies basically are small files that store information such as your browsing preferences, like your language, your currency, and it also records your previous browsing activities as well. So that's why you are most probably likely to encounter an ad from maybe Temu or Amazon or Daraz or any website, or probably the most item that you are interested in, because they just keeps on collecting your browsing activities record. Like for example, if you are searching for iPhone, so most probably you will be sent the ads for iPhone. So this is the reason for having the cookies, that they allow user tracking and they maintain user preferences. So collected data can be used to customize the web page and all of that. So there are two types of cookies. One is the session cookies. The second one is the persistent cookie. The sessional cookies are those where, like, when you are browsing on the internet and you just complete some one session, maybe when you are purchasing an through an online website. So it's basically like you are browsing it throughout the first session. So what they do is that they keep the user items in a virtual shopping basket, and that shopping basket is an example of a session cookie because you starts to store all of your information into that. So this type of cookie is like the temporary memory. So it does not connect any information from the computer, but it only contains information from your website or from your session. So if the session is closed, if the website is closed, this will be terminated. Do we have a choice in the cookies, or every website has it? Every website has it. You do not have a choice. If you are browsing any e-commerce website, so you are most probably likely to be encountering the sessional cookies because you are adding and dropping every item into your shopping cart. Or how is this even possible? Like if you have added like 4 to 5 items into a shopping cart into a website and you just close the website and open it back again just after a day, how is it possible that you are going to see the same items added into your cart? This is because it is saved in the session cookies. Other than that, I have persistent cookies, or you can call it permanent cookies. The only difference is that they are much permanent and they are stored on your user's hard drive and they are stored until they have reached the expiry date. So permanent cookies remember user login details. So your ID, your password, your forms, your important information, your authentications are stored in permanent browser. So these cookies like remain in operation even when you close the browser or even your session is terminated. The main advantage is that like they are safe and every time you open up the website, it pops up. So they only save your personal information, but before than that, you are asked if you want to store it or not. Persistent cookies are a very efficient way for carrying data from one website to another, so you don't need to writing the emails and passwords again and again. So right here is basically the small summary for the persistent cookies. You can go through it and comes back to me if you have any problems. So we are done with 5.1. The next topic I have right here is the cryptocurrencies.